It's time now for our next session, and that's going to be with Sarah Kvist and Kirsten Remsvik from Southern Denmark University, and they are here to tell us about letting learners roam free. Again, a little bit of housekeeping. Just remember to keep your questions to the end. Sarah, I'm going to make you the presenter now, so you can share the screen whenever you are ready.
So thank you, Anu. As Anu said, my name is Sarah Kvist. I am a specialist consultant for e-learning and educational development at the University of Southern Denmark. And I'm here today along with Kirsten, who will introduce herself as she does her presentation, to talk to you about student-driven learning via itslearning at SDU. So just a few brief facts about SDU, the University of Southern Denmark. We have about 27,000 students across 6 cities in southern Denmark. The main campus is in Odense. We have 5 faculties: the Faculty of Health, of Social Sciences, of the Humanities, of Science, and then the Faculty of Engineering, where I'm from. And today we are going to be talking about just a little bit about the implementation of itslearning overall at SDU, but more specifically about how we have been using itslearning during lockdown at the Faculty of Engineering. So here we go. I hope you're not seeing me again now. SDU signed a 6-year contract with itslearning in May 2020 after a long selection process. So we needed to change platforms. Our contract with the previous platform had expired, and there was a long selection process, including input from e-learning consultants, but also from teachers and students. So it was about a year-long process starting back in 2019. And then in May 2020, we signed the contract with itslearning. itslearning was chosen especially for user friendliness, for functionality, and for being student-driven. And the last part is especially important, which I will get back to. The implementation of itslearning at SDU started basically right away in June 2020, and it included running a number of pilot courses across different programs at SDU in the fall semester of 2020. We did at the beginning of 2021, we did a number of webinars for teachers and students based on, among others, our experience from the pilot projects. And we've also established a page with written guides and video guides for itslearning. So on February 1st, everyone at SDU switched to itslearning all at the same time. And well, as you can see, this also means that we are newbies in using itslearning. So what you're seeing today is based on the experience we've had during the fall semester and these first few months of using it. So how's it going? Well, we did an initial evaluation at the Faculty of Engineering in April. So after teachers and students having used the system for about 2 months, and of course we focused on their experience with starting up with itslearning, but we also asked them about what's working well and what could be better. And what the teachers have pointed out are the benefits from using plans, but also from using the internal messaging system and also comments for announcements. And this is especially regarding including the students and activating the students in their teaching and learning. The students have pointed out in the evaluation that the system is very intuitive and that the connection between the calendar and plans provides a great overview. And of course, everyone points out that they are still getting to know the platform. Right. So taking a step further into the actual teaching and learning at SDU and at the Faculty of Engineering. At the Faculty of Engineering, we have the EEM, the Engineering Education Model for SDU. And this is just one figure from it, the most central one. At the Faculty of Engineering, we work a lot with student-centered learning, but also with projects and team or group work. So anytime students have a course, it will typically include both group and project work. And the interaction between the project work and the subject or subjects of the course. The underlying principles for teaching and learning at SDU are active teaching and learning, and this includes that the course design focuses on coherence between the different learning activities. So we expect students to show active involvement in class, in their independent studies, and in collaborative work with other students. We also expect students to be proactive, exploring, and ready to learn. So of course, these are some of the main points that we have taken into our work with implementing itslearning at SDU. So as I said, we are doing a lot of group and project work at the Faculty of Engineering. And well, this was a challenge when everything locked down, because our students are used to being on campus from basically 8 to 4 every day. And we have project rooms where they sit and they do their group work. So we were very curious about how to solve this during lockdown. But what we've also discovered is that group and project work has been even more important during lockdown than usual. It has helped the students maintain their structured study days, and this is something we've heard from many. It was difficult. It has given them some of that social motivation, seeing others. It has provided some opportunity for interaction with fellow students and supervisors, as we have many perhaps have struggled a little bit with these Zoom lectures, where interaction is at least more difficult or requires more thought than usual. Group work, well, you can't really get by without interacting. So it has been an obvious way to get that into their students' everyday life. It also helps students take ownership of the learning process, and this ownership is especially important also for their motivation for participating. So in that way, group and project work has been very, very important as we have been doing fully online teaching and learning over the past year. So the tools we have used for group and project work in itslearning includes discussion boards. So we have been using discussion boards both for Q&A, but also, for instance, for having students hand in presentations for comments from fellow students. So we've been using it for peer feedback and to give students the opportunity to see what the others are doing and to provide that room for interaction online, which was missing during lockdown. We've also been working with course groups and group folders in resources, giving students access to uploading and editing each other's work, using pages, among others, for students to build on each other's work in groups. And we've also been using assignments with peer feedback for journal writing. We are kind of missing the opportunity for group feedback in assignments, but what we've done is we've made one student responsible for each journal assignment, and then they take turns giving each other feedback. And that's been working out rather well as well. So what's next? Well, one thing we saw in the evaluation we did is that the students would very much like a higher degree of uniformity in the way teachers use itslearning, the way courses are built. We've given teachers a very high degree of freedom and will continue to do so, but we are now working on a number of model courses to show teachers in each faculty how they might set up their course. We also have a course template, which we have been building on a bit further to ensure that students get a more uniform experience. Of course, we are also going to take a good long look at what we want to bring with us from the last year and what we would like to leave behind. And most definitely, we will be including facilitating group and project work through itslearning, because our experience has been very good with that. And we will continue to look at how we can improve it and how we can use the advantages in doing it online, along with giving students the face-to-face experience that they've been missing. So I will now give the word to Kirsten, I hope, or Anu, maybe you can, and she will take us to the STU library.
My name is Kirsten, and I am the e-learning coordinator at the University Library of Southern Denmark. And in this presentation, I will tell you about a self-paced library course we have developed as a default course for all our users in itslearning. I will come around why and how we have chosen to design the course, and I will also give you a quick live tour. At the University Library of Southern Denmark, our finest job is to support students and staff. We do this by helping and teaching them in, for instance, finding course literature, helping to live up to expectations about correct reference management and research integrity, and helping both students and staff searching systematically when searching for literature for a new field. We not only spend a lot of our time giving library assistance one-on-one, we also offer many courses for both students and staff. And these courses are, for instance, library introductions, reference management courses, and systematic literature search courses. But when giving these courses, we often feel that we are either a little too early or a little too late to the party. This just-in-time teaching can be a real challenge for us, since we often only meet the students once. And suiting all needs can be difficult when following a traditional structure with face-to-face courses. And then came the lockdown. It was a total game changer for us all, of course. But once we have risen from our first experiences at the library, it gave us a chance to start restructuring and redesign our course form. So we took down an old shelved project. In our former LMS, we had a tab called Library. And if the student pressed Library in the top right corner, they got to a page with a link to the STU Library website and some few other information. This was not our proudest content. And when talking to students, we knew that something different was expected when they pressed this tab. So back in 2018, we asked 2 of our web design students if they would use us as a case for their development project related to their master thesis. And this was their result based on feedback from 286 fellow students from both psychology and business studies. They did a questionnaire and they did specific interviews also. We never got to implement this design though, since the process of selecting and changing to a new LMS had already started. So switch to December 2020. itslearning was now chosen and selected as our new LMS, and just a month before launch, we convinced our e-learning coordinator group at STU to give the library in the LMS a new chance. And these were the conditions and requirements we set up. It should be a course, not a tab, and the course should be the library's face in itslearning. There should be only one library course for all 35,000 users. That is a mega course, we call it. Students should be able to learn from it. It should cover both Danish and international students, and all users should have the course shown by default. It should be a self-paced online course only, and not depending on either time or place. And when first implemented, there should be a limited operating cost for the library, meaning it should be a standalone resource. We should be aware that there is a fine line between conveying content and designing for learning, and we are still working with this. The target group should be the students, but the academic staff should have access to, and they could, for instance, relate it to their teaching, or perhaps they could even benefit from it themselves. And regarding content, we chose to start small scale, and then we launched the course mid-April this year. So it's still very new to us. So now I reckon you would like to see the course. I will show you around. Let's see. Are you seeing my browser?
Yes, we are.
Super. Somehow I managed to switch my presentation screen and my note screen, so I'm just moving around here. So when entering the course, we have chosen to start at page in resources. Creating a self-paced course, we found that the resource pages with content blocks work best for our content. And this first introduction page is designed to cover both Danish and international students, and therefore the text is written in 2 languages. We split up the content in 3 sessions, and then we placed a link to a questionnaire where students could assess us and give us feedback. And then we also placed a link to the library website and embedded our course calendar just in case. You enter the sessions by pressing on the listed titles. In the first session, we have placed a lot of small screencast videos. And we have tried to give as much information in regards to what to do when you need to find some specific literature via the library resources. So we have all these small video where we show how to find a book, how to find a database, etc. And then we have placed an old web classic in the top corner up here, the go back link. So the user would come back to the introduction page. Next page, it is somehow a little more text heavy, but also with videos and links to further content. And the last session, where we have used different blocks for different parts of the session. And we also managed to embed the library database resource list, which we hear from our students is very much appreciated, because this is often something they struggle with finding. So they are very happy to see that that we have embedded it here, and also that they can figure out. It's often their excuse is that they can't log in, they forgot their password, etc. So we placed the information here as well. Since it's a standalone resource with no deadlines or assignments, we have prioritized resources above plans, even though we know this is not what our e-learning coordinators in the faculties are telling the teachers. But we also, and therefore we know that the students are used to use plans in their other courses. So if they get lost, we have, of course, placed it in plans as well, with topics, and then a Danish and an English version with the resource connected to it. We might switch to plans as the starting page, but we have to ask the students in August what they think about it before we do. And also, when they are acquainted with the itslearning platform, they might figure out how they can easily get an overview of the content in the course. We have chosen to skip the overview part with the announcement, and we tell here that we don't use announcements in this course room. We hear from the students that they in questionnaires that they have explicitly told us, please do not overload it with announcements. So we won't be bothering them with announcement and messages in itslearning at the moment. We would like to hear what they, if they have changed their minds when we ask them later. But for now, we don't use the announcements. So back to the presentation. So for now, the next step for us is to market the course for new students and staff when the semester starts in August. And then restructure our study start activities implementing this SDU library course from itslearning. We also plan, as I said before, to interview students and staff in a UX test setting and collect as much relevant usage data from the course as possible. With 35,000 users, gaining data from a mega course like this, we are still working on how to get best usage of the 360 report tool. And with our admins learning how to use the reporting tools also. But I could hear earlier from Frøydis Hamra earlier today that there are many possibilities, and we would like to look further into who are the students using the course, who are they statistically, from which faculties are they coming from, which levels are they on, is it first year students, second year student, master students, are there specific student groups not using the course? And we would also like to investigate more of the web behavior if possible. What browser are they using? Are they using the app mostly? And are they leaving the course to external web pages? And if so, is it web pages we are linking to, etc.? Hopefully, it will be possible to gain this information from both the data reports and also the planned UX interviews with students and staff. And then we will get some inspiration and knowledge to the development of an improved second version, which we plan to launch for next winter. This was my presentation. And I think now that we are ready for questions, Anu.
Absolutely. So let me see if I can, yep, Sarah's back. So we've got a couple of questions in for you, and I'm just going to ask some of the questions here. The first one is from the panel, and they are asking about choosing the right LMS. It's quite a long question, so let me just make this a little bit bigger so I can read it. It says, in regards to choosing the right LMS, what did you consider as the main points of consideration? What were your decision factors based on?
Well, that's not an easy question to answer. But as I said at the beginning, we actually went through a very long selection process, letting e-learning consultants give their input, but also teachers and students, meaning that we had a very, very large Excel file full of criteria for an LMS, meaning that there were no certain main points. Of course, functionality and it being student-driven as well, because that's a key part of teaching and learning at SDU of our underlying principles. But other than that, there were quite a number of criteria. So yeah, would be a very long answer, I think, if I went on.
What benefits do you see with using the itslearning platform compared to your previous LMS that you were using at SDU?
Well, from the evaluation that we did after these first 2 months of the semester, what we are hearing from both teachers and students, and this is unsurprising to us, this is also something we expected might happen is that itslearning allows for more diverse kinds of student input. So the internal messaging system allows for communication in a way that we aren't used to from our old platform, and also the commenting on announcements. But just overall, what we are seeing is we are getting better opportunities now for student input and for this interaction between teachers and students.
I could add also from the library point of view, it's much easier for us to, well, I told about the shelved project, and we shelved it because it was because we had the new selection process, but we also shelved it because there were too many difficulties on getting our wishes come true in the former LMS system, and here we have started all over, and it seems easier and more intuitive for us to design courses, also these standalone courses.
Mm-hmm. Why not use Learning Paths tool instead of Pages? I see that you are using Pages for your courses.
Well, we could have also. We found that we needed these. We really wanted to embed these specific other library systems, and this we found was easiest in this using resources Pages, but we might change it. We are still learning, and I have personally spent some time using Learning Paths with quizzes and etc. in another course. So this could be a way. This was the first edition, as I said, and we are still getting more knowledge about how to do it.
Well, considering that this is still, as you say, your first edition, so let's take that into consideration for the next question, which asks, if you were implementing itslearning again, what would you do differently? And what lessons have you learned that you will take forward with you?
Well, I think at least for me at the Faculty of Engineering, what I'm hearing a lot from our initial evaluation is the wish for standards and more uniformity. We wanted to give teachers the chance in the implementation to experiment with the system and to use it in a way that fit them. And well, perhaps if we were implementing again, we would be more clear on more standards. We did set some, but perhaps doing it again, we would have set more, or perhaps have put more effort into setting up model courses to show teachers sort of a structured way of doing it, which they could then mold on their own.
And this is also a question related to implementation. Can you share some of the key don'ts for implementation?
Well, that's a good question. I would rather share the do's, but now I'm trying to turn it around. I mean, a very main thing, and something we've also struggled with, I think, because of lockdown, is communication. So letting teachers and students know what's going on, letting them in on the process without overloading them. So perhaps that's a don't. Don't overload people with information, but it's a difficult balance because we also want to inform. So, but yeah, don't overload. Choose key points and push those. And we have a very nice guide page, but there's a lot of stuff on it, and I think perhaps some teachers are getting lost in it. So avoiding overload of information, I think, is key to implementation.
Sorry, I've just realized that I've had my webcam switched off, so you're probably hearing this sound coming in from outside. Let me just, now that I'm back on the screen, let's continue. So a follow-up to that question is what you were thinking of. What were the do's? What would be the do's then?
Well, again, I think communication is a very big do. Do let teachers know what's going on, staff and students. Make sure that everyone is informed in good time, and then again right before it happens. Do set some standards, and I mean this might be obvious, but do ask staff and students what they are thinking, because ownership, I think, in implementation is a big part of it as well, and just being very practical about it. So what do people actually need? Go and ask. That's a big do as well.
Mm-hmm. So we do have a question here, and this is about the features that you would like to see and you would like to add. What were the key features that you currently use, yet you showed some of the ones that you use, and what in your respect would be features you would like to see added to itslearning for your hybrid program?
Well, we are currently, of course, we're using plans and we're using the calendar, and that's working very, very well. We do work at the Faculty of Engineering. We do work a lot with peer feedback as well. And as we do also do a lot of group work, I think something that, at least for my faculty, is a big wish, more options for group feedback within itslearning. And also the project rooms, we have been using those, but we have some very large courses, and teachers end up with 100 project rooms, and it's, well, we would like to see some more support for group work. And I know that a lot of things are coming now with the test tool as well. This is something for my faculty is a big thing as well. We are using multiple choice quizzes in many interesting ways, and we're looking forward to itslearning supporting that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When you decided to change from your previous LMS to the current LMS, what was the main deciding factor to switch to itslearning and not continue using your previous LMS? And if you can, would you be okay naming the previous LMS that you were using?
Well, it was, as far as I understand, I wasn't initially part of the process, but, well, the contract with the previous LMS ran out. And as it is a rather large contract, there was an EU bidding round. And the previous LMS put in their bid as well. So it was a simple matter of, we set up all these criteria, and, well, itslearning won. So I guess that's it. I think as for the name of the previous LMS, I believe you can find that on our webpage.
Okay. We don't seem to have any other questions at the moment. I'm just going to keep it open for a few more minutes to see if anybody else has any more questions coming in. Oh, just as I say that, I see one. What has been the biggest challenge when supporting students and teachers during COVID with itslearning?
Getting a hold of them. Knowing whether they're reading or watching the materials that we've made and are sending to them. That has been a huge challenge, because I think with this type of very large implementation, what I might have done, and of course my faculty is not that large, but I would have gone into classes and just checked in for 5 minutes, letting the students know that we're doing this. You know, we could have put information and materials around campus, but during lockdown, we've been entirely dependent on students actually visiting the different web pages. And of course, they're used to this. And we posted it in the old LMS, you know, we're changing, and we posted via social media. But it's been a huge challenge to get that sense of where we're at, because everyone has been, you know, at home. So yeah, I would say that.
Yeah, also to let them know that we are actually still here. Even though we are sent home, we are still working, and we're working very hard to keep all channels open to be available for the students. This has been the challenge for the library, at least, to let them know that we are still here to support them and to help them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one. Well, we have plenty of time, so we can take a few more questions. Has SDU designed a hybrid learning strategy for after summer? How do you plan to adapt to the future after coronavirus pandemic?
Well, we are currently working on it. So there's, as far as I know, no set strategy yet. But as with the process of choosing a new LMS, what SDU is doing now is hearing from different actors, from teachers, from faculty management, and so on, in order to get the best strategy. We did do some hybrid teaching over the fall because we were able to accommodate about 50% of students in classes. So we did some hybrid teaching, and as a result of that, we do have some experiences. We do have some equipment, which looks a bit like what we saw before from Turkey, with a setup with cameras and a microphone. And what we will be working with for the fall is experimenting further with that where it's relevant. I think many students and teachers are longing for just face-to-face teaching, but there might be some still, and depending on the situation in fall, it might still be relevant. So what we will be doing, I think, is working on using that equipment that we tried out in an emergency setting, and just working with implementing that where it makes sense.
I have a question actually, and this is one that I've asked everybody who's been presenting today, because we are of course also interested in finding out how the students are faring. So how have your students at SDU fared? How have they adapted to hybrid learning?
Well, that's a good question. We of course have different. We've had different surveys during the year, as we usually do, and we believe we can see from some of the answers that we have been impacted by the lockdown. So students are generally thriving less, and this is something we'll be working on in the fall semester as well, as we all get to go back, hopefully. Some students are working well, or have been working well under the conditions, and have been very structured, and have felt that perhaps it was even easier to participate in teaching and learning than usual. They've enjoyed staying at home, and others have absolutely not thrived. I think as an overall, the students, what they're telling us is they miss coming to campus as well. So yeah, but
some of them,
a great effort has been made, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's true, as Sarah said, some of them are also have really benefited from working from home, because we have a lot of students pendling from Copenhagen by train or from Jutland. So they have long traveling hours, which they have now could avoid. So some of these students are actually not really, they're happy that a lot of things have happened online, and they are voting and cheering for more hybrid teaching and learning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really hard on the ones who are commuting, of course, long. It's easier to cut down the travel and just wake up and go straight to your work or laptop. Yeah. So simplicity and accessibility is always the main thing for students, to make it easy for them to find what they need, when they need, and how they need it. And we had a couple of sessions on the planner yesterday explaining that. I mean, with structure and scope, it just makes it so much easier, not just for the teacher, but also for the student. I don't see any more questions, and we are coming to the end of our session anyway. So thank you very much, both of you, Sarah and Kirsten. Thank you very much for joining us today.